Hey everybody, welcome back to Fire Pit TCGs. I'm joined with Meat and Tetris to bring you guys the recap of the Florida GP stats, and well, it's been 3 weeks, but so we probably don't remember much.
Yeah, this GP's old news, pre-color rule change, no one cares. It's next set's in like 2 weeks. You might as well just like end the video now, right?
Nah, we'll still cover the stats.
There was a GP? Really?
But no, we'll still go over the stats even with all that in mind. So kicking things off before we get to all the boring numbers talk. How was your guys' GP? Like how did you enjoy it?
No, I mean I had a lot of fun. I can't wait for them to finally bring Akira to the TCG. She is iconic. I love her. I can't wait to go Poi Matsuri on everybody. This is what we're talking about tonight, right?
Yeah, I can't believe we're just talking about like random JP spoilers right off the bat. Like holy shit, that one funny Larig. I can't believe Yusuke is finally playable. Guys, that's insane.
Yo, Iona playable?
That's fucking crazy.
So, but in all seriousness, I mean, it's always great to see the community.
Yeah,
we got a lot of great people in there. I think top 8 was kind of an upset nobody was expecting in terms of what showed up. I was there with my locals doing a big tournament for the first time for a lot of them. So I had a great time. Super thankful for Carta Magica for hosting these every having us there.
Yeah, it was a nice event, just like in Vegas, but this time, not this time, but just like last time, I also had one of my locals trying to take on the GP this time, and this time she did really well. Top 16, very impressive, and with an obscure center. So she's only been playing for like less than like half a year or something around like that, and then she's able to top 16 in just like that little time to just pick up the game, learn it, and like know the ins and outs of the meta game and all that. It's kind of crazy how much progress she's made. But
if you flex that, I gotta flex my local that made top 4 with a very, very like
also obscure center,
like unpopular like center in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is definitely a tournament.
Style.
Yeah, so this is definitely a tournament where people tend to playing their like favorites rather than like play whatever they feel like was the best at the time.
I unfortunately can't flex as hard as you guys because I did have 2 locals come out this time, but only one of them got to walk away with any kind of like top prizing. One of my locals did win the top Mito. Spoilers, but
whoa,
yeah,
that's Mito, kind of crazy.
But both did like relatively, like both still placed in like the top half of the pool, so like I can't really like rag on them. Do I wish they could have done better? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I want to see my locals do well, but it was their first like major event that was playing against other people that wasn't me, so I'm still proud of them.
Yeah, it's always great to see, honestly.
Yeah. Everyone did well. Everyone won in their own ways, and just hope it keeps up next event, whenever that'll be, if there's another one.
Yeah. GP3 win, Doko. So going into the representation data, so we only had 83 players for this one. It was unfortunately timed because it's March, spring break. Like a lot of our like the known player base is in college. That's like spring break. Not all colleges have like the same spring break. Also, considering going to Florida, it's a bit expensive around that time because Florida is a very popular spring break destination. But still having 83 players show up is fantastic. And here is our spread overall. Over half of the Lurg pool seems like it wasn't even used, and it makes me sad, especially not seeing a Guzuko player. I cry.
I'm always hyped to be the #1 Miko. I bring her every single GP.
True.
Doesn't mean I get to play her, but I do bring her in. So yeah. I'll take that dub.
Yeah, unfortunately, I cannot say the same for me being the best loon this time because there's 2 other best loons in this tournament. I had to like concede that title for this one.
Yeah. So our top 5 in general, we have Anj with 12, the only one with double-digit representations, is kind of expected too, to a degree. Anj at 12, Tama at 8, and Sash at 6, and Hirana and Remember are both tied at 5 at this point. And then the rest is just simple numbers. We have 12, I believe. Yeah, 12 Lurigs that basically win by showing up for their top Lurig prizing, which, I mean, you take what you can get, but overall the representation is still pretty nice, even though I know across our group and a lot of our discussions, like a lot of people were expecting like, oh, it's just going to be all white decks showing up everywhere, so still seeing this is kind of refreshing.
Well, you see, the thing here is, maybe this is me making excuses, but the thing, to a certain degree, is that because Diva is such a color-focused format, really. Mm-hmm. You can say that, okay, there's 12 of Anju, and there's only that's the only double-digit one. But really, when you notice that Remember and Sash have similar play patterns that they favor, other than obviously the things that make them different, and you can even include Tama there to a degree. Right. You really don't have that much of a split in terms of, there isn't that much difference in terms of people that played Anj versus people that played the other common white files, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later. Yeah, this is something that I wanted to bring up while the Lurig numbers were up, right?
Right. No, that's fair.
And it's the same with a lot of the colors that we see, where you see certain patterns towards, this is just the best Lurig in this color, so this will have a few higher numbers, or this will be, a popular Lurig that people just like to play, so this will have higher numbers.
Right.
Right. I did say before that this is kind of an event where people tend to favor playing their favorites over whatever is good at the time. I still, even looking at these numbers, that is still kind of the case, considering how many single digit Lurigs that are well below the white representation there are. But even those people who want to go for their favorites kind of probably have a hard time ignoring what is generally the best colors in the game: white, blue, black. So that's how a majority of these this representation is within those 3 colors, and red and green is sorta kind of there, but it's very, very sparse compared to the other 3 colors. So despite what I said, people still want to play what's good, right? To make sure their choice of centers plays the best as they can for the current environment.
Right. And the last thing that's kind of interesting too is availability. So I think that you definitely see, you're seeing 2 things going on in here, right? If you look at the bottom row, Alos, II, Alpha, Mew, Muga are all things that came out in the last set. So a lot of newer players may have started with these, or a lot of people may have just picked them up as their newest deck and said, hey, I've been playing this for a while, so let me play this. And it's the same thing with Anju, Toko, and Mito, where you can get pretty much every card you need for them in a singular set. So I think availability, Hirana might be a good example of this as well. So.
Yeah, because of the double heroines deck.
Mm-hmm.
But continuing on to our top 64.
Before that, I think I want to say, I think it's kind of cute that there is basically exactly one team that has every single one of their members represented.
Oh yeah, Uchu. Let's go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it's pretty cute. I think that every other than Card Jockey having 0 of the members, every group has some amount.
They're out at a concert.
Yeah. Each of the other ones has, just Uchu having one of each of their members is super cute. I really like that.
Yeah, the only, Uchu's the only one that's got all of their representation, and then also the most recent set outside of P11 also has their entire set full of representation as well. So it's still fun to see. No, wait, P6 too. P6 as well. Forgot about Tama through Earth. Has their entire set representation too.
Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was a pretty impactful set, and some of the most iconic characters of this franchise is in that set. So, of course.
Yep. Anyways, back to the top 64. We see some of these numbers fall off. Not a whole lot, actually. Again, like, to cut the top 64 was not that far since, again, we had 83 players show up. So there's a lot less number changing into this one. There isn't really, like... I don't think there's really much to mention on it, just because of, like, the short gap between player count and the 64 bar.
Yeah, like, pretty much most of the rigs that you would expect to make it to top 64 probably made it in, with, like, maybe with some exceptions here and there, but, like, as you said, that's, like, that's not even 20 players who, like, didn't make top 64, so basically, if you got some amount of success with whatever you're playing, you're probably in top 64.
Yeah.
Right. The thing here is, and this is what I found completely crazy, is we see 0 Bell in top 64.
Yeah.
We see 3 Midoriko and 1 II. And I think thoughts about green rigs, Mel is probably one of the better ones. But we're seeing Bang, we're seeing Midoriko, we're seeing II over her. So I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. X dropped I know the X dropped off for the red, and so did Yuzuki, which is
right. And one of the Hiranas as well.
Yeah, one of the Hiranas dropped, one of the Anjas dropped, a few other numbers were.
But I will say that Hirana is still considered to be the best red in the rig, just because she enables dash. So her being, present here in the 64 is one thing. I'm surprised that Mel being as, considered to be strong compared to the others in green, is still only making it to under top 64.
Right.
It's likely because Mel's playstyle, while it is in theory like really, really strong relative to the other green centers, especially with her her once per game ability basically being like a remembers once per game in a lot of scenarios that doesn't like care about the turn order too much, whether they go first or second. Her playstyle is very resource expensive. Her ability to put crafts onto the Signy is an action you have to pay enter for every time, and that is something that is not in high supply when you're against all these white matches, which only do enter deny stuff, like against Remember Memorias, all the removal that's like doesn't give them enter and all that. It actually makes it actually makes it really hard for Mel to execute her game plan in those scenarios, because she herself as a center doesn't actually generate resources compared to the like green centers, which have some kind of like enter root generation somewhere, like II's auto, Midoriko's enter, and Bang's auto as well, assuming you're on the off-team Bang.
And even then,
the thing is, like, Midoriko doesn't actually have resource generation. She has resource conversion, I believe.
Yeah,
which
and
is,
from hand to enter, which is pretty nice.
It's fine. I think I would say that rather than Mel not having resource generation, it's also that some of her budget is in the coins, which does influence your deck builds.
The coin factor is there as well. I mean, she gets access to nourishment, unlike the other centers that are in green, but that alone can't solve everything.
Right.
And one thing too is, like, I know when Mugen came out, there was a lot of like, oh, I lose a one whole color, this is going to suck, and meanwhile, here she is still in top 64.
Right. The thing with Mugen is that, and I'm telling you, from experience, I helped this guy build this deck.
Right.
I sat down with him and I drilled him on what I thought were good play patterns and how to play against this. The thing with Mugen often is that a lot of decks just don't have the tools to sit down the way that Mugen sits down.
Yeah.
And just hunkers and just says, here's a bunch of walls that you just will not be able to clear. You don't have the resources to do it. I can do this every turn, because once I get to my limit 9, I'm just going to have 3s on the field every turn, and I'm going to have a hole that is essentially free every single turn.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like very, very much a long con Lorig.
Yeah, Mugen is definitely like one of those like centers that has like a really insane payoff once you like get her game plan going, but of course the hardest part is getting to that point in the first place.
Yeah.
But if you're
I think
able to do
rather
it
than-
consistently, then it's
Because you have to wait at least 2 turns before you can flip her if you want to go fast to her limit 9 flip condition, since assist Lorigs do count towards her limit flip. So you
I will
have to
say,
at
as
least
somebody
wait
that
2
has-
turns.
Yeah, I'll say as somebody that has both played her and against her, it's less a matter of the payoff being good, because the payoff is like pretty decent. But rather than that, is that the average player hasn't played her or against it for long enough to understand what makes her tick. So it's a little bit of a gimmick in that you don't super know how to handle it. You don't super know what to do with it. A lot of people played her, gave up, week 1, week 2. So not everybody has experience against the deck. And it does certain things specifically in a certain way, such that... I mean, it sounds like I am not saying anything here, and I kind of am not, but it's a matter of the play pattern is not something that you can see in a lot of other leagues. So that's why she makes it to top 64. And I'm going to spoil, that's why she makes it to top 32 as well.
Yep, and speaking of the top 32, moving on to that slide, and half the pool disappears.
yeah, crazy. 32 is half of 64. Shocker.
Whoa! And
Yeah, this is
also
this
in
is when
terms
you
of
see it.
also in terms of you watch half of the Lorigs just completely get knocked out of top 32 as well. On still being in there is the only green. Well, no, there's Bang. There's Bang. But I forgot Bang. Sorry. So we still have 2
The
green in
crazy
there.
Well, the crazy thing about Bang and Anne is that they both have certain things that make them like theoretically really powerful. They both have moves and things that they do that are unique in a way that no other green rig can do. And if they are allowed to succeed in this, then they could be very theoretically powerful. Like Bang has a big turn-by-turn Lancer, which I think is broken. As long as you have enough things around it, if it's not the only thing you have. And Anne has a OPG that potentially just wipes the field without even targeting them.
Yeah, the on OPG is really fancy. Because the combo with that is you use Unbreakable Javelin to set your opponent's entire field base power to 10k. OPG and their entire board just gets removed without targeting.
Important.
Javelin also removes their abilities, so
It also removes their abilities.
Even if you're against like crazy stuff like an H2O board or like an Adams matchup, the H2Os lose their constant to protect themselves from that, and then Helen still clears the field of them.
It's still even crazier because Anne can just set something to have. She doesn't actually care about the wide enter, right?
Yeah, because she can give once per turn she can give multi-enter to something in your enter.
Yep.
So essentially, Unbreakable Javelin is 2 and a green to turn her OPG into a board wipe, which is good conversion.
It's a white, a green, and a colorless.
Yes, but you have multi-enter.
Right, duh.
So it's 2 and a green, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it is effectively 4 resources for non-discriminative board wipe, one-sided that doesn't give enter. It's quite scary.
So those things are like theoretically strong, and I can see how she succeeded all the way to top 32. Over II especially, and over Mel in that sense. Minariko's kind of a pocket pick. One of my locals brought up, so I have a lot of experience, playing alongside and against that deck, and it does some really crazy stuff. To the point where I'm a little bit surprised it didn't make it to top 32 in fact.
Yeah. Speaking of, let's look at the other colors too. Going from the bottom of green to red. Now Huron is the only represented red center among the top 32. X and Yuzuki and everyone else that attended, unfortunately, did not make it to this point in the stage. But at the same time, it makes sense. Hirana is a uniquely very strong center that just ages better and better as the game develops.
Yeah,
I think we're all like very unsurprised that red isn't doing too well in this meta. I think nobody is. nobody is, oh wow, this is crazy. No, everybody just understands that in a meta that is, again, spoiler, but a meta that is so white dominated, red just doesn't do enough in this with the current card pool.
Like red has like a really insane like early game play depending on how the white deck is playing. If they're playing a little more, if they're not playing like walls at 2 and stuff like that. But as soon as the white deck gets to level 3, red now has to deal with Exias. In Sasha's case, they're 14k wherever they so please. Level 3s or 15ks.
Oh.
Like they also have to deal with like remembers and a bunch of stuff that just can't be removed.
Do you know what's actually crazy? I think you have it all. I think you have it upside down. You have it the wrong way around. I think red needs its early game so bad, and the cards that have been coming out just delete the ability of red to have a competitive early game, that the late game is suffering because of that. It's not that they cannot prosper through the late game. I think red right now, more than any other time, is totally able to deal with certain late game threats as long as you've built your Lyric deck to compensate for this.
Mm-hmm.
But the early game is what's at stake. Like Romeo Lancelot is just not enough anymore.
Well, Lancelot is in a very interesting position meta-wise, because if you want to look at the threats that Lancelot can answer that Romeo can't, it's actually quite interesting.
Oh no, absolutely.
Lancelot can answer things like a buffed Kirame, for example, who has Shadow 1, but is a 5k level 1, so Lancelot cleans that easy. For example, it also clears out like the most common level 2s in the white piles, so that'd be like Deus Memoria, Caesar, and etc, etc. So Lancelot still can get in the damage here and there, but
yeah, the problem is that just Lancelot and Romeo are just not enough aggro.
Yeah,
not enough aggro to catch up. And sadly, even if you throw in some extra to your Lyric deck, it's also just not enough.
Yeah,
because you lose everything else.
Yeah, well, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying like it is quite telling of Red's position in the meta when only Lancelot is consistently doing anything for the deck in this early game.
Pretty much.
Right. Because the level 1 boards have just been, like, looking at some of these lists at a glance, like a lot of the level 1 boards just have a lot of, either it's like, oh, I have Shadow level 1 because I exist. I have Shadow level 1 because I have another card on the board that matches my condition, or like I have Shadow level 2 or less Signy, or
yeah,
pretty much.
Your base power, or your current like power is just higher than what red can answer.
And that too.
And I think if you had, like, as a red player myself, a Hanayo enjoyer of sorts. Little known fact about me, but as a Hanayo enjoyer of sorts, I have been melding in red into a lot of things, and the ability of red to actually answer threats or make up threats is one of the reasons that I thought Midoriko was a bit favored in this format. Being able to gain assassin through things like Thoroughbred, Tengu, for example, or being able to get assassin through the red cards and things of the sort. It is a bit painful in that you are able to handle some of these boards, and you are able to avoid some of that late game assists with Lalaru and Tengu. But you just can't win because in the early game you didn't do enough damage. You got stopped out of doing your 3 or 4 damage on turn 2, and then just are behind.
Yeah.
Once you're behind a defensive deck, you've lost.
Yeah, if aggro loses any bit and portion of their tempo, it becomes more and more of an uphill battle, and that exponentially increases the more times you get stopped in your game plan.
Yep, and that is kind of why Hirana is like the top only red center here, because she has the speed and the natural damage output that kind of like band-aids the struggles red has early on, and still has that really explosive final turn where if they just don't have everything prepped up for that big turn, they're done on the spot.
Yeah, because Hirana Hirana's unique, and like the biggest portion of her damage output is the fact that on her dash turn, she alone carries 4 instances of damage between Entwined Supremacy, her once per game, Tama Aura, and just luring swings as well. So
yeah, I mean, Tama Aura, pretty much, yeah, the 4, right?
yeah, so
And it's just about unstoppable damage that the opponent cannot react or interact with.
yeah, and considering Entwined is the only unstoppable one there, so you're always playing at 6 life cloth guaranteed when you're playing against Hirana because of the Entwined Supremacy.
Well, you also can't stop Flamethrower, right?
True, yeah. Flamethrower, am I forgetting another one?
There's Halberd, but you usually
Halberd's
don't
very
compare-
rare. You'll pay for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
no,
the
you
one I was
don't.
thinking.
I wouldn't usually consider Halberd as part.
But,
Yeah. Either way, the general dash turn is at least that kind of output, and if the dash player's like matchup doesn't have like everything prepared for that, then yeah, there goes the game.
yeah.
And I mean, that is just the state of red.
Mm-hmm.
And since we are going through the colors at this point, I kind of really want to bring attention to a color that we're seeing a lot less than I thought we would. And that's we're seeing 3 black Lurigs.
3?
Yep. There is
Oh, yeah,
1
3.
Alpha, 1 Urith, and 1 Toko.
And I know that some of those are going to disappear before we go to top 16, so I want to bring it up now. I am actually in awe at the lack of, black Lurigs here. I think that 1 Toko making it further than the Mito is kind of interesting for a lot of reasons. Alpha making it far is not too surprising. I think a lot of players that tend to give her a lot of chances to be good, and that tends to produce decks that work better than you think they would. But 0 Deuce? Seriously? No Deus at all?
Yeah, there wasn't a single Deuce player, and I'm totally not saying this because this has been my pet deck throughout the entirety of P11 to CPO1. 0 Guzuko also kind of like surprised me a bit because I've had a lot of success with her in the Utols package because my old build back in 09 when she came out abused some of the green Signy that can summon things from Enter to abuse her OPG to try and clear as much board as possible. The Utols package itself, like in the most optimal setting, if you can get double Utols out, and it requires you to pass 2 Umer Mills as well as like 7 instances of minus 8k that clears almost everything. So like she has a lot of aggressive potential. It's just a shame she never got a chance to potentially like shine because no one showed up with her.
Yeah, no, I mean, and the Utols extra being that you can always summon the missing piece.
Mm-hmm.
It'll cost you,
Yeah.
but you can always summon the missing piece.
Yep.
So I'm more surprised, less because of her viability and more because of her popularity, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
I think Guzuko's got a good number of fans, so I'm surprised at 0.
Yeah.
It was a surprise of a lot of people like her deck. It's a deck that a lot of people have. I do not believe that it is a deck that is any less meta relevant than it was in Vegas. That is potentially cold, but I actually think Deus is still, in this day and age, still a very, very strong one.
Deus is a very high ceiling deck. I think people were following just the trends at the time. They're like being really down on Deus, being like, oh, remember just once per game's Deus, and I don't have souls anymore. The opponent can just put down 2 Remember Memorias right in front of Deus, and now every soul attachment costs extra enter to do. And once those souls are gone, like where's the rest of my damage? Because like Deus is like aggression is super finite compared to like other threats at the time that can just like have holes on demand without using their like one-time only resources. But that's just my theory. Deus is still very, very good.
I'm also.
I don't even think Remember's an auto lose for Deus either.
It shouldn't be.
At most, it's a turn skip. That's about it.
Yeah, but like the thing is that in a lot of ways, I guess a lot of the Deus game plan just loses to Remember's game. But Remember wasn't. She wasn't even a third of the board. I think a lot more people were on Sasha anyway. And I don't think it's an auto lose. It's very rarely an auto lose when you're talking about the top decks. So I was a bit surprised not to see her. I think what you said is right though. Like people being a little bit scared of Remember rather than it being a reality.
Well, the other thing with Remember too is she like her once per turn mitigates a little bit of what Deuce's game plan is.
Yeah,
Through
that's what
like
I meant with that.
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, she also gets to just down freeze the H2Os if Deus is on the Atom build, and that's like they can just perma freeze one H2O and then Deus won't be able to get the value off of that lane for a while unless they like charge it out themselves, which means they remember basically just outed an H2O without even like doing anything extra.
Yeah.
Did you know that you can rise H2O over H2O?
Yeah.
Oh, pouring water in the same glass. Crazy.
You say that, but that's actually how, I mean, way back in like 06, 05, or whatever. That's how I just handled with being frozen. I just put another H2O on top of it.
Yeah, Deus can still do that with duplicate copies of H2O and a Mirage, but, well, that might not be available all the time, considering that, Remember is Remember. They probably have a ton of discard lying around, or like there's other factors at hand that make that plan not as attractive as it could be.
Right.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot to it. I'm just surprised that we got 0 people trying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I blame a lot of like the timing thing, but that's a dead horse at this point.
Yeah. And then we have the last black center here, Urith, which is a center that a lot of people were like super duper down on. Ever since her first like release in PO6, people just thought she had the lowest potential out of all the PO06 centers. They called her like bottom tier black center and all that. But here she is, top 32.
Well, it's not like those thoughts aren't unfounded though, because like when you read her compared to other black centers, she seems super vanilla compared to everybody else.
Well, I mean, in the end, all that Urith technically does is have a turn-by-turn free mill, and she plays with an extra life and a filter, and a double filter.
Yeah.
Because her enter is really strong, but then you have to consider that you have to discard for her OPG, and then you think, oh crap, now I just filtered. The +2 from the enter is gone with the OPG. Which is kind of the complete opposite of Tama having her enter be just a selective +2 that she gets to keep throughout the game.
Yep.
Without having to like sack it for her OPG.
It's crazy. The only thing she has to give up is two Signy swings if she wants to do her restand too, which honestly
it's
isn't
2 Signy
an
swings
issue.
and 2 enter.
Yeah, 2 Signy and 2 enter, which honestly isn't an issue.
Yeah, it technically evens out on resources of Tama's end too, but like that's not really how this game works.
Yeah.
So, but either way, Urith has seen quite a surprising amount of success this event, probably due to the surprise factor and the fact that she has one of the easiest access to probably one of the strongest Signy in this format, if you can turn it on, which is Curse on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that is true. Free curse on access is really good considering Remembers, Exias. Insert other white Signy here.
So the thing with Remember is that Remember has already done her job by the time you can activate Curse on. So I don't think Curse really an answer to Remember as much as the card.
Well, I wasn't saying Remember is Curse on is an answer to Remember. I'm saying that. No, it's just like the ability to just ignore a lot of like board gimmicks that the white decks can put up and still open lanes like normal is very, very powerful, and that lets Urith keep tempo with those slower white decks, and continuing to put on pressure that other decks aren't really able to do nearly as easily.
Turns out the answer to white is white. Who would have thunk?
Yep.
Yeah, we've been over this.
It's crazy. But, so continuing on to our top 16, I'm going to go one at a time for this one just to show the placing and give recognition to these players for making it at this point. Like, top 16 is, like, the break point, honestly, for the prizing, because I think the only thing, like, top 8 gets is... Well, top 8 does get a little extra, but this is, like, the biggest break point to the prizing, too, and, like, these players deserve recognition. So, starting at 16th, we have Lantern on Remember, Rusula on Remember, Bubble Person on Madoka, Hobby Otter on Tama, X9 on Sash, Nicole on Urith. Hey, look, that one Earth player.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Phantom of Dusk on Sash, and Bazumi on Alpho. This Alpho list was interesting. Spreadsheet with all the deck lists is posted in the description below, but his deck list was interesting. It's Virtuals Alpho.
Yeah, it's
Alpha Virtuals isn't like a super unfounded concept, but I guess like compared to the fact that these virtual cards are like kind of like built to be built with like Toko, Mito, Anjaliza, etc. It makes it kind of like puts the rest of the potential like centers you could play the virtuals with to the side and not really think too hard about it. But Alpha has a lot of like good qualities that the virtual like main deck package really likes. So it's a yeah. Credits to Bosme for discovering that synergy for himself.
Yeah, who would have thunk that being able to like get resources of your opponent refreshing is good when you have a card that auto refreshes the opponent.
Yeah, not to mention it's the not to mention you can kill off a lot of game plans because of her once per game just excluding 3 cards out of the trash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, you have 3 copies of this card that's super annoying. Now you have 0. Good luck.
Yeah, like that part won't come up as much because depending on how long the game goes, but it's still something that the opponent still has to respect when they like do their resource management. What they have to be careful what they put into the trash and all that. But and another thing too is that like Alpha's Enter is pretty potent because like which is just it's just a Vanish 1 Signy, but that is an Enter that you usually only see in red centers. But Alpha just happens to be a black center that has the exact same Enter, and then that means right as soon as she hits the board, she already has a lane for you to just punch through and get the pressure going. So it's completely free aggro to her, and that's kind of similar to what I was saying about Urith too. She's able to maintain pace with the more defensive decks just because her access to damage is a lot more efficient than the others.
Right. But it doesn't surprise me seeing a whole lot of white at this point in the top 16 anyways.
Yeah.
But we've ran around that bush a lot leading up to this point, so I won't continue on it.
Yeah, white is just the best color. People who play in the GP were well aware of it, so we're not going to go too much into that.
Yep. And then continuing on to our top 8 placing in order, we have Blaze Puerto Rican Power on Dash Hirana. One thing I will say about this player before continuing, I think this was like his like 2nd day playing. He was like learning the game in the hotel lobby that he was staying at the night before, like learning his deck. So him placing this well is amazing. I love seeing stories like this. 7th place, we have Skewer on Anj, Altiers in 6th on Remember, 5th Starfruit on Anj, 4th our sole Umer player throughout the entire event, JFeather78 on Umer, Loon 3rd place, piloted by No Soup for You Too. 2nd place, Sash with Sirion Seal, and this bird taking it all the way with Madoka. Pigeon 0208 taking it to 1st place, and I think he also went undefeated the entire day. So this event was his to take at this point, like going this far.
pretty crazy stuff
Yep.
over here.
Overall spread is 4 white rigs, 3 blue rigs, 1 red.
5, not 4. You said 4 white.
It is 4 white.
Yeah, it's 4-3-1.
Oh wait,
Numbers.
I cannot math. Sorry. I saw Loon having like a really big white background. I'm like, oh, it's white. No, oh my lord.
Yeah, you play this deck too. That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. I suck.
So yeah,
Umar being in this top cut really surprises me.
to be fair, all the blue centers that made it to top 8 were all like some kind of upset in some form. It's like blue is pretty much known to, well, blue is kind of considered to be like white at home in terms of like the kind of play styles that the deck wants to do. They're also like the white decks also play blue, and the blue decks generally want to play white as well in their own capacity. With the exception of this Midodun player, they're not on any white cards at all, which is kind of insane to me, considering like a lot of the more successful Midodun builds that led up to this point were on white. But this Doom list was on red and black instead, so that is quite a surprise twist to the deck list that people were normally expect from this blue rig. Also, Midodun is like super not popular, so like not this is just very out of left field in terms of like character popularity too.
And I do
Yeah,
remember.
I mean,
I do remember
it's a lot
from
of.
him.
I would say that a lot of the upset that I think is kind of important here is also that blue is a pretty good supplemental color, and it is considered to be a pretty good supplemental color, but it's not considered to be a good center color compared to white. Like, we are putting them side to side here, but it's not really side to side. It's the same thing with black, where like black is considered to be a good color, but black isn't the main color.
Yeah.
Usually.
It's
So, like-
typically like you get your Ana Mirages, you get your Polaris's, some Caesars, maybe Typhons, Oigotas.
Yeah,
Right.
Black
It's-
black provides the most efficient removal package that synergizes well with what white kind of wants for their damage, and black is just the color to go for if you want to play the funny piece ultra superheroes. So
Yeah.
Right. And then the same thing with blue, where blue is just like almost an incidental color in that it allows for the discard, but it doesn't. It's never your central place.
Right. And the one thing that I do believe that was the bigger upset for this Loon deck is since it is on red, it can play a little more aggressive in the early game. So it doesn't have to play at the pace of other like blue-white red decks. It can play at a little bit of a different, or blue-white black decks. It can play at a little bit of a faster pace because it has that early game aggression opting into red for some form of removal, and also is a remove anything on Ush instead of the top 5.
yeah, one thing to note is that because the Loon's list was on Machina Smash and Haneo Pomegranate for the assists, both of those open holes, and Lancelot also opens holes. So like the amount of damage, there's a good amount of like guaranteed damage from the rig deck, and the fact that Lancelot exists, which means that Midodun is a lot less burdened to have to use their very expensive once per turn action to clear specific threats off the board when the Lyric deck can just do it for her. And
also doesn't have to deal with cards cross turn, like cards like Remember or Exia that mess with you cross turn.
yeah, so this kind of like adapts her playstyle to being like a normal blue, black, red deck with like the more aggressive assists, and then just using the Midodun's once per game to just get a bomb of resources to like brute force through a resource deny scenarios, and the once per turn action usually doesn't ever come into play unless like there's just something that there just needs to go away regardless of how much you want to pay for it, and it does have the value that it can vanish anything on the board. There's no like power or level restrictions on it or anything. It's just you just have to pay a lot for it. And also like in against the white decks, the ultra superhero decks and other like blue decks, her Midodun's like constant to raise the cost of the opponent's spells is also does come up. The random drain is a lot less appealing when you have to pay 2 for it. Same goes for Over Pursuit.
Yeah, Over Pursuit is a lot less appealing when you... I mean, it becomes actually a pay one at that point, if you can get the refund back. The other list I did want to touch up on is this Umer list. I played a lot of Umer when she came out, and I never thought about doing what this guy did. Imagine running 10 Gaybolgs. That's basically what he did. I completely forgot some of the Hastilisk interaction with some Signy.
It's even easier because you say that he's running 10 Gaybolgs, but he is effectively running a lot more than that. Because of Umer's auto allowing you to switch Signy. So once they die to Hastalis, because they think, oh, well, whatever, I'll just not pay for it. He just switches one of them off and still gets the Gaybolt that he gets in front of it.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah. You reorder your triggers that way, and it's makes for some very impressive scenarios. Like, you're not necessarily dealing like a crazy amount of damage turn by turn, but you have a resource denial strategy that is practically impossible to replicate by other decks.
Yeah, it's super amazing. I love this list so much.
It's not just, and it's also not just Hastalis, right? Like, he can just throw out a Mew. Whatever dies in front of his Yukime or Musica is gone, and then he switches out so that they can beat something else by battle and end up with a lot of that. Or you made the mistake of putting two 2Ks out on the field. You know, attack phase starts, constant procs of Musica. It's gone. The first 2K is gone. Auto, move it to the other 2K, the second 2K is gone. He just got 2 holes for free, bro.
It's so good.
Yep, it is something that I employ in an All-Star Yuki as well, especially since in that format, Signy are a lot smaller, so Musica gets just to prey on that for free. But aside from that, like, but we're not an All-Star. This is Diva, so and also Musica's on attack ability to shuffle 2 cards back that helps her with against those Ultra Superhero decks as well to like somewhat delay the refresh from happening, like at least a turn or so earlier.
Yeah,
turn or so later. Yeah.
It's great because he is also playing Ulith assists, which usually have a detriment of milling you, but all he has to do is mill himself. Return things with Musica so he doesn't mill himself out.
Yeah. So it basically it's just like, I'm gonna mill myself off of Afflict is the level 2. Yeah, Afflict is the level 2. Mill myself off the Afflict, but I have these 2 Musicas. They're just going to shuffle these 2 cards back in my deck anyway, so it's like I didn't even mill myself, and I got a free plus 4K on my Afflict Grow.
Yeah, it's some pretty cool synergies that's going on there, and props to Jay Feather for getting this build together and seeing this reaching top 4 with it. It's very unique, and good stuff.
I wanted to see it. I wanted to see it go all the way, but unfortunately something happened in this top 4 round that kind of ended that early. But that's for the GP video archives that will come out shortly after this video airs. So, and again, congrats to Pigeon for going like all the way. He had some insane games. I think my favorite game that I got to witness out of all the games that I got to watch room, because I tried to stay away from the streaming table so I wouldn't spoil myself for like commentary stuff. One of my favorite games that I saw, and I believe I've mentioned this in like 2 or 3 other videos that like his game has been brought up, is he was presented a losing situation in his top 8 match. His last burst was Anna Mirage. He summoned off a Haniel and found a Servant to Survive off of the top deck.
Yep, and of course, Pigeon, being the player that he is, probably already knew that Anna Mirage was very much there. So he had that plan the whole time. He just had to like find the guard, and once he finds it, then that was it. The rest is history.
Yeah, it was absolutely insane to see that entire play.
Sometimes people are just they're just gifted.
Yeah, after saying that, man, man was playing plot armor. Or wearing plot armor. Nothing was stopping him after that point, like, in my eyes. And goes to show, like, I was right in that aspect. He made it all the way.
Yeah, and Pigeon as a player is known to be like a diehard Monaco fan too. So like being able to reach the top with your favorite lyric, that is probably one of the best feelings you can have.
Mm-hmm.
But
So-
yeah, but overall, this has been a lot of surprises in this top 8. Like the good decks are still got their placings, but like the ones that are surprises, so they had their own spice to it, and that's very well deserved for everyone there.
And I will give an honorable mention before we move on to the Mugen deck that we were talking about during the top 32 discussion. It placed 17th.
Yeah.
It was just shy of the top 16 cut, and
Yep.
I'll never forgive him because he would have made top 16 if he beat the Olif like I told him to.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just a player diff, my friend. My Europe local, she got the 11th place, got the 5-2. She got to the higher ranking despite her very unfortunate first 2 or so rounds of the tournament. But
yeah.
just
I mean, I'm just setting him
play
right.
better next time, man.
That's what I told him. He should just play.
Meanwhile, I'll sit in my violin corner of not being able to brag like that. But
Yeah.
well-
Well, let's just say it was Neat's fault that this whole cross-country locals rivalry started in the first place. So
I won.
Damn it,
I won.
Nate.
I don't even know what you're talking about. You
No,
sound
no,
like
no.
you sound like it's his fault. It's his fault he lost. I won.
oh man.
No. Nicole's not going to take that line down. I'm not the one playing, so I'm not fully as invested as she is in it. But you know,
Oh man. Sounds
I am invested. I won. I got
So-
the first.
It sounds like I
Yeah,
need to put
you-
my locals through a training arc so they can compete with y'all at the next GP, so we can have this like real. We
I
have
trained that boy.
We
I trained that
we can
Yeah,
have this. We
of
can have
course.
this cross continent fucking rivalry, and then there's just these 2 people from Ohio, just like, hi, we've brought corn.
I'm telling you, dude. I will take full credit. That guy has insane cooking. I will take credit for any Remember match that he played. He knows the matchup because of me. I'm telling you. I drilled all of my friends.
yep.
This is the white pile. This is how you play.
Yep, I've done the same thing. I grilled me. Well, not just me, but also Fatigued, who is the previous Seattle local that went to Vegas GP. We both made Nicole go through the ringer with all these oppressive white decks, and like remember Sash, Anj, everything. She had to live through all that and then figure out a possible plan to like survive through them, and then it paid off. She got 11th, so not quite top 8 like she wanted, but like it for someone as new to the game as she is. Well, I can't be too upset about it.
Yeah, no, it's
Right.
it's impressive first major tournament placing top 16. The only thing you can really do is just strengthen yourself to do better at the next one, the best you can. And continuing on, I'll also give the recognition to all of our top placing Lurigs. I'm not going to read through the entire list because I'll be here for half an hour, so I'll just show the lists of players on the screen. For
Yep,
all,
take-
what was it, 32? No, math hard. Hold on. Yeah, 32 unique Lurigs showing up, so congrats to these 32 players for placing top for their, well, on this slide at least, 24. Congrats to all of these players for placing the best for what they brought with. A lot of names I recognize from, just like going off of it, a lot of these names I recognize from the last GP doing the exact same thing, with the exact same Lurig, or either playing a separate Lurig in their own right.
Yeah, we just happen to know a lot of these people because we're both small, but we're very tightly knit. We kind of like everyone kind of knows everyone here. So
Right. And then for the last of our top centers, on this slide here, makes me so happy to see the Pure Luke player winning top code Pure Luke yet again.
yep, 2 in a row. The Periodic cosplayer. Let's go.
Yeah, you can't beat that. You can't beat that, man. Like, you might as well just scoop it up if you sit across from him. It's like, yeah, he deserves it.
You know, best Periodic for as long as he lives, hopefully.
Yeah. Can't wait for P13 in that case, probably.
Well, spoilers. What set is that?
Magical Disneyland. That's what it is. Disney collab.
Better say that way. We're in Florida, you know.
So, moving on to the boring data numbers now, or at least even more boring data numbers. So our top deck archetypes. Normally in the past I've gone through every single Larig and have pointed out what their bests are, but when you look at our top 5 and notice that 3 of those 5 kind of mesh into one, it's kind of pointless to say the same thing 3 times. So I'm just summarizing like the top deck archetypes across the entire field, and also kind of biased based on placing as well. So we've got 3 total archetypes we're going to be covering, and I've basically covered this entire video. Decks that can and will / did play Ultra Superheroes, 20 decks. Followed up by some form of virtual package at 17. And last but not least, Dash decks at 7.
Yep, there's your top 3 decks of this format. Yep, nothing to see
calling-
here. Move along.
What are we calling a dash deck? Because I only remember there being 5 Hirama.
So I'm calling a Dash deck anything with a super aggressive game plan. There were 2 Lila decks, I believe. 2? Gotta look at my numbers again. There were...
I expect.
Sorry, there was 1 Lila deck that was trying to employ a super aggressive game plan, and there was another deck that was employing a similar game plan. With trying to play super aggressive and having multiple Larig swings. Basically, also like shoved anything that was running like the Tama Aura into Entwined Supremacy package, which is 7.
Yep, there you go. I mean, Anj is also kind of technically a dash deck, just not in red, so
Yeah.
there's a little bit of overlap there.
Yeah, so the dash number is a little bit higher if you consider Anj to be within those dashes, but considering it's mostly a virtual pile, except for the other deck I forgot to talk about in top 8. The other, not Starfruit, but Skewer's Anj deck was like half virtual and using Tama Aura, and it was really funny to see, but whatever it did, it worked.
Yeah, I kind of tested similar piles like early on into the CPO ones like meta, and so I'm not too surprised that I showed up, because like I did think the deck had a lot of potential, just like just needed the right pile and the right like list for it. So I guess pretty happy Skewer found something like that.
Yeah. And I know some people are probably going to be looking at this spreadsheet that I posted as well alongside and go, wait, how is there 17 virtual decks when there's only 16 virtual centers that showed up? Alpha virtuals. That's the 17th Alpha virtuals.
Yep, there you go.
But I don't have a slide for this, and I'll admit it. It doesn't surprise for like the top cards and stuff. Really shows into the like top 2 that we see here. So if you're following from home, and you guys here, if you want to look at the look at this one, the card stats main deck. If we look at like, ignore the servant that has 3.99. Shout out to the Mad Lad who only ran 3 servants.
And the burst quality is kind of bad. It just gets back a card. It doesn't stop anything. Who cares?
Yeah, true. If we go like through we'll do the top 20 cards. So from there to here, yeah. We'll notice that in the top 20, like outside of 2 cards, most of it either belongs in virtuals or is white pile with its tech pieces. Which is what we see in these stats here for the top deck archetypes, with decks with the Ush decks at 20 and virtuals at 17. even if virtuals only is 20% of these top 20 cards, with Kokoro, Kohaku, Elria, Pandora, Chigusa, and Kirame. Which says a lot, honestly, considering we saw this in the representation too. Like, these cards were to be expected considering what the top so many decks were. And I believe you touched on this earlier too, Neat, with like, a lot of these decks do have blended play styles. Like, if we look between Sash Remember and Tama, for example.
Right.
They all share the similar card pool. What good white cards are good? They work everywhere, so gotta put them in everywhere, of course.
So, in
Pretty much.
You know, like, even with what is it? Like, even with a lot of discourse that I've seen, like, oh man, hyper discard wins again. This card still feels like a very small game plan of that, considering you look at all the top cards and, like, there's only a speck of blue to be seen.
Yep, it is just a side plan that you can pivot into depending on scenario and matchup. So, and Remember just happens to be the best one at doing those pivots. So that's how she was able to get the most mileage out of that.
Right. And we even further see it more, like, solidifying this, looking at the assists and the pieces tabs. Like, for the assists, the top, what is it? Like, actually top 12, because there's a lot of ties, is just, outside of Mel Revise randomly being in there, most of it is either virtual pile or some variant of Wub good stuff pile, white pile, etc., etc.
Right.
And then the pieces, most used pieces, or either the virtual pieces or Super Celestia Saber comboed with Ultra Superheroes. Honorable mention to Burning Curiosity and Energy Door both at 9, followed by Entwined at 8. So all in all, like, the perceived meta of this just further solidified by these stats. There's not really, like, much to, like, go off of.
Yeah, like, even though the centers were more diverse than expected, then we can't really say the same for the main deck. Everyone kind of knew what the good cards were, and their centers of choice that topped, they were all within those colors. So just run the good cards and have at it.
But we will go ahead and slowly wrap things up here. We'll finish this off with our judges' corner. What are things that players should either, like, practice or prep for a potential, whenever we get it, third GP at this point, or, like, any other major tournament? I do know there were a lot of matches that went to time this round, or at this GP, compared to the last one. And that's even considering that one improvement that did happen from the last GP is there was an extra 2 minutes at the beginning of the timers, so people actually had time to set up for their post-mulligan and all that other stuff, compared to the last GP where, like, some people were still setting up and the timer was just going.
And so let's have Adit take it away, because he is our head judge for that event.
Yeah, I mean, there's the timing stuff. You are supposed to play in time, in a timely manner. It's one of the things where I consider to myself whether it's something that you should be talking or mentioning and suggesting. But we're all friends, we're all really friendly, and I think one of the things that comes with that is that sometimes people are not willing to call judge on slow play. And regrettably, calling people out on slow play is one of those things that is kind of a necessary evil. You're not sharking your opponent when you do this. You're not trying to reach out a victory. You're just saying, hey man, you are playing at a pace that is going to get us double. And WiXoss is not a game where you can determine who is going to win
just by checking life cloth. You could be 3 turns away from no life cloth, or you could be about to lose when you're almost full.
Yeah.
things vary and deck styles vary, and what is in that life cloth matters as well. Both from a skill perspective and from a hey, I got lucky perspective. So it's a little hard. It is a little hard that it has to be this way, but double loss is what we have. Let's deal with it the best way, and the best way is saying play at a prompt, play at a prompt speed, play well, don't make mistakes, but don't also, overthink everything.
Right.
And regrettably, part of that is your opponent is taking 3-4 times as long as you are in their turn. The only thing you can do to avert the crisis that is getting a double loss for timing out is to call them out on slow play. Most of the times, judges won't actually give them a game loss for it. They'll say, "Hey, all right, we're gonna monitor the situation, and if this is a constant issue, then we'll deal with it." But you stand to get so much more by doing something about it rather than just taking it, and it's really frustrating to get a loss that you don't think you deserve, right? So
Right.
that's I think my main takeaway. I didn't see anything crazy with misuse of the rules. I don't think anybody was out here displaying unsportsmanlike conduct, which I think is wonderful.
Yeah, it's really good to see. Despite the lack of slow play calls and all that, people were still very willing to call judge when they're unsure on rulings, unsure of certain game scenarios, and or they just wanted a judge around to just monitor what's going on, stuff like that. So the players were very good at doing that. So good job on that part. But despite all that,
even that, I would say that even in the realm of getting calls for misplays, for things that are, hey, I just revealed information that I shouldn't have. Even in that realm of calls, I never felt like one of the players was trying to.
Yeah, most of the calls, most of the errors that happened on the player side were just that. They were just errors. No, it was not not out of malicious intent. They were just little accidents that were not repeat events after the first time it happened.
Yeah.
But there were a couple very severe accidents that did happen though, and I don't know if we're able to go over them here, but in detail. But the long and short of it is, in order to prevent those major accidents from happening and giving you major warnings or game losses or whatever, in between rounds, just take a minute or two to just go through your belongings or your deck, make sure everything's in order, things are things are sleeved properly, they're put together in the correct places, so things don't get lost or misplaced during the game and getting heavily penalized for it. So just don't be in a rush to pack your things after the round ends. You got time to settle down and pick things up at a slower pace, being more careful about it. So just make sure those kinds of accidents don't happen to you, or minimize that.
Or just just in general, yes, we are timed, and yes, sometimes, if you're running hot, don't play sloppily. Basically, take your time, read your card effects. Don't do something that can create a situation where, because the thing with us, we don't like giving game losses. I hate giving game losses because it sucks when people know you at this point. You having to be the person to go over and be yeah, sorry bro, game loss, or yeah, sorry, double loss. It feels even infinitely worse if there's no situation in any point where it's potentially avoidable. Oh, this is a potential line that they could have done that would give them knowledge of some stuff, for example, to where it wouldn't be as detrimental compared to, oh, I can't reverse this in any way, shape, or form because there's no way for you to have this knowledge through other game actions.
Right, but in these cases, a lot of these things are, I would just say the most important things aren't to go fast or go slow or certain pace. I think knowing what your cards do and paying attention to what your opponent is doing at all times is pretty much of the essence. And I would never I never recommend this as a sole shuffling method, but pile shuffling your deck is actually something that I recommend people do, not because it shuffles, but because to pile shuffle your deck, you have to split it in even piles, and you are going to know when a pile is uneven if you start all the way to the left and you end halfway through.
Yep.
And that tells you immediately, hey, I'm missing something. And then it gives you the feeling that you shuffle better. It's kind of a charm rather than a thing that happens, but there's no reason not to do it. People will say don't pile shuffle, and I would say that is not a decision. It is a good method to know.
Yeah.
That's something I would.
It's like pile shuffle, but don't like make it your only shuffle kind of thing. Pile shuffle initially to get the full count of your deck, make sure everything's there, and then like, what is it, like the quarter shuffle, Hindu? Is that the Hindu shuffle? I don't know the names of fancy shuffles. I just shuffle cards.
Riffle.
Yeah, Hindu is just taking one, just grabbing a clump and putting it on top over and over again from the stack. That's Hinduing. So
do proper randomization methods. That I don't think we have to say that. That's just a TCG.
Yeah.
And pay attention to what your opponent is doing, not because you think they're cheating, but because of the fact that them messing up something you getting the right effects happening is important.
Mm-hmm.
And doubly so for ask and respond properly. When you ask, what does that do? And your opponent just answers, oh, don't worry about it. That introduces a whole number of things that can go wrong. Or when you ask, or you assume, oh, this card just does this thing, right? And they say, yeah, that does that thing. But it also does 3 other things that you're not aware of. You might end up in a bad situation where you're revealing information that you shouldn't, or you are making decisions based on information. And I mean, you obviously never want to make decisions based on information, which is why you ask things. If your opponent says, don't worry about it, or, oh, it just does this, and gives you information, then some players will definitely construe that as, cheating, which in a lot of ways it kind of is, right? If I tell you, oh yeah, Ush just mills your deck, yeah, you only have 10 cards in your deck now, then maybe you could have added up to 12. You could have added your 12. Or say Phalaris, right? Random thing is like, oh, what does Phalaris do? Oh, it mills your deck out. And while it is true that it'll mill your deck out because you only have cards in it, knowing that it's 10 cards means that you played a card that adds 2 of them back into the deck so that you don't actually mill out.
Right.
Yep.
So, misrepresenting game information, it's usually done not as a cheat, but it's a little bit dangerous to do.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those things that could happen when you're like just in the moment, just like in the middle of like your turn, and the opponent kind of asks you like in the middle of your thought process, like, oh, what is going on here? And then like you might just accidentally give them like a half answer, not out of like malicious intent or anything. You're just like doing your own thing, and the opponent just like out of unprompted asks you about stuff, and then that kind of like stops your train of thought. So
like honestly,
that could happen.
Honestly, like the best thing you can do is just never be afraid to pick up your opponent's cards. Ask first, of course. But never be afraid to just pick up your opponent's cards and read it for yourself. Or like, if they're in the middle of their thought process, if you don't want to interrupt them, just be like, hey, I'm just checking your trash while you're going through whatever you're doing.
Yeah, cards are all in English, so.
Yeah.
Can read.
Yeah. So either way, overall this was a pretty well-run event, and just like last time, there's nothing too like nothing too damning that happened in this event.
Nope.
There's a very chill, fun experience, and best of all, we were able to actually end the tournament on time despite the extra minutes extensions that we gave to the rounds this time around. We ended like around early-ish 7 p.m., which is like only like a few minutes late of schedule. So props to Carta Magica for keeping things tight and keeping things rolling and not minimizing the delays where they can.
Also, thank you for not doing best of 3. I was less.
No,
dead this time.
I dream of a day that we can do the best of 3.
Oh my
I
lord.
dream of that. I think the possibility of someday having 2 days to do the tournament and having a proper because it is true that it is true that WiXoss is inherently a little bit less random than some other games. A lot of the games that tend to be a little bit more random are also best of threes, and it also just so happens that sometimes it's not you misplaying; it's just you not getting the cards that you need of them.
Yeah.
Or bursting worse than the opponent.
Yeah, if we're able to have, if we get another event, they announce like a 2-day event with like a top cut on the day 2, then we're here for it. So let's go.
Yeah, I'm down.
I would totally be down for a best of 3 in that situation, even if it's gonna be like super long rounds or whatever. But
Yeah, like if they're gonna do something like that, it probably would be like a larger top cut, right? Like at 16 or instead of 8 or something like that. So
yeah, or just like do what is it that like what card? I can't remember what card game it does. It's just like they have like 7 rounds of Swiss on day 1, and you have to have a specific record to make it to day 2.
yeah,
Kind of
Yu-Gi-Oh does that pretty often.
Yeah, that's basically why I'm saying that I would like a best of, rather than a best of. I would like a day 2.
Yeah.
I think it's just nice.
Yeah.
It is something that most of the competitive games do have for their bigger ones, so it'd be great for our game to adapt it to, even though Japan's events aren't 2-day. They're also 1-day, so that might take a bit for Takara Tomy English to adapt to.
Aren't JP
be
events
honest.
also double elim?
They are double elim, yeah.
Yeah.
You lose 2 rounds and you're done.
So their events will naturally move a lot faster than Swiss because, like, at least with Swiss, it's entirely possible. Like, you can go X2 your first 2 games. If you win the next 5, there is a snowball's chance in hell, but there is still a chance you can top 8 with that kind of record. All depending on tiebreakers.
Yeah, but I will defend this till the day I die. But Japan just has a different way of being, and this isn't a good thing. It's not a bad thing. They play card games with a different approach than we do. It just is. They just do it, right? So we cannot really look at it from our point of view and say, well, they do it this way. Like they do it this way, so we're never gonna. We were watching some of the Mugen Shoujo Cup Japanese game, and it's just the way that they run their tournaments is kind of almost incompatible with the way that we run our.
Yeah.
It's just a difference in culture, and it's just a thing that, if there ever is Worlds, and I hope so, but it's just something that we'll just have to suck up. They'll do it their way, and we'll have to suck it. But Japan is more comfortable with games being decided by best of ones. That happens in every card game. It's not just WiXoss. It's not just.
Right.
Yeah, and for context, Mugen Shoujo is essentially Japan's like version of like Worlds for WiXoss that happens every year. They've only started doing this since like 1 or 2 years ago, but it's like in Japan there's a bunch of like, well, the way they did it this year is they're in Japan. There's a bunch of like regions and like stores who hold these Mugen Shoujo qualifiers, and if you happen to win one of those or like place well in one of them, you'll be able to be invited to the final Mugen Shoujo Cup that was streamed like a few weeks ago. And that event was a top 32. It was 5 rounds of Swiss that went into single elim top 8, and some basically the best players of WiXoss Diva selection comes together and dukes it out there to be the Mugen Shoujo of that year, 2023. And the winner of that event gets all the recognition in the world for being basically the best WiXoss player for that year, and they get a nice little prize. We don't know if they have the same prize as they did last year, but it's definitely gonna be something very special for them.
Yeah, and we did see our last GP winner in that top cut, or in that as well. For those, or our winner from the last GP, known as Waku, he was in the Mugen Shoujo Cup, and he did make it to top 8 as well. So
yeah, Yep, he was able to reach top 4, and yeah, he's just got a god of this game basically. Even though he didn't win Mugen Shoujo, he has records all over the place for this game. He knows what he's doing.
Yep.
I have some comments on he knows what he's doing, but I'll keep them to myself here.
Well, I mean, it is your bias because he is playing your favorite deck at the time. So
He is playing my favorite deck. I think he could play it a little. He could play it a little better, but I took. I'm just joking at this point. It's more of an ongoing joke than a real comment on this.
Right.
I'm happy that somebody took Hanayo all the way to top 8. I'm honestly really happy. Top 8.
top
Right?
4. Top
4, right? Because he lost in the semis. You're right.
Yep.
Yeah. So top 4 Desuna Hanayo in this meta that really doesn't like Desuna Hanayo. I'm down. Too. I'm happy.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, take what you can get, right?
Of course, yeah. So hopefully, if this game gets going for long enough on the English side, we could get something similar to that. But we can only dream, right? Dream and hope.
Yep.
Hey man, if we get something like that, congratulations on the promotion.
No.
Yeah.
True.
Congrats on the promotion, Tetris.
Wow, crazy.
I'll let you borrow my streaming equipment too.
Oh man, I mean, you're the commentator. You'll be the live commentator. We'll have your pretty face commentating every round.
Oh god, no! That means I have to trim up my beard.
You guys can do that. I am going to.
Yeah, you're just gonna be judgment as usual.
Judgment? No, you're getting promoted to head judge, brother man. I am playing.
Oh shit! Oh yeah, you gotta outplace Waku with this and Hanayo. True.
I need to be at least top 2.
All right. Well, hopefully something like that comes up for us either way. But either way, I guess that kind of wraps it up for this GP breakdown, right?
Yeah. With that note, we will wrap it up here. Thank you everybody for watching. We wouldn't do this without the players. So thank you guys for being awesome.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll see you guys whenever a big event like this comes up again. And yeah, even if we're not, even one isn't coming up anytime soon, well, we literally live in Discord, so you can just hang with us anytime.
Yep. Terminally online, even if I'm working 24/7.
Regrettably, permanently.
Yeah, truly an age of technology we're in. We're not gonna leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. See. Dan, thanks again for watching. See you around.
Yep. See y'all in the next recap. And thank you guys for joining me again.
Yeah, thank you for joining him.